Welcome everyone to the Chris Parrish podcast. My name is Chris Parrish, and this is episode 76, Backlashed. But first things first, I want to give a shout out to all the people that helped make the Chris Parrish podcast run. That is right. That is the beautiful help from Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. So if you want to check out more about the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program and more about Turnbuckle Studios, please hit up turnbucklestudios.org and you can meet the team. You can meet what everyone does. You can see what everyone is doing over in the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. You can also get more information if by chance you want to join the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program or even work with them. I also want to give a shout out to beercadewhyte. You can check them out on all the platforms mostly. But the ones here I have listed are Facebook at beercadewhyte. I also have beercadewhyte on Instagram and beercadewhyte on X. But if you want to check them out locally and you want to check out the amazing food, play their amazing games, but just check out that beautiful establishment and just have a good time. And you're in the Edmonton area, go check them out at 105 82nd Avenue. And with that, we are on our way towards a redefined WWE. That's right. Backlash was last night. It's in the books. And what we saw was just an insane card. Usually these cards, the ones that don't make you go, oh my God, I have to see that, tend to have better matches. They always seem to over deliver. Maybe that's because your expectations were a little lower going in, but they always seem to be very good. And last night was no different. Whether it was the beautiful match by Pat McAfee and Gunther, tell me you weren't invested in that one because Pat McAfee took an ass kicking like you expected, but it was a lot of fun to see Michael Cole getting involved. It was a lot of fun with that fatal four-way for the United States Championship as all four men gave you everything they've had. But let's get right to it. Now, if you saw my predictions, that's right. I'm not going to give myself a Barry Horowitz, but maybe I should because I hit the nail on the coffin on all matches. But with that being said, let's not forget just how good they all were. We have Bobby Stats coming in the chat saying, "What's up, Chris Parrish? I'm hurting. I just had a hellacious 7-man ladder match last night. And luckily I'm not concussed. So that's a nice caveat. I did get hit in the head with a ladder. That was beautiful. I don't recommend people doing that on every Saturday. But how are you? Thanks for joining us. We are about to go through the Backlash card, starting with the United States Championship match. Yes, it was Drew McIntyre challenging LA Knight, who's challenging Damian Priest, who's challenging the champion, Jacob Fatu. Bobby saying you watched Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling last night after Backlash, and that's right before we get into Backlash. Congratulations to the walking weapon, Josh Alexander, once again for becoming that inaugural Maple Leaf champion. But what a match we had for the United States Championship. Just absolute nonstop. 4 men kicking each other's ass. It was everything you wanted. Hopefully Drew McIntyre is okay. He appeared to suffer what looked like to be a potential head injury. He just did not look good, but I do wish him the best. Hopefully he is not out or out that long. We need Drew McIntyre in in the company on our screens every week. He's been an absolute MVP in my eyes for the WWE. But yes, the big news coming out of this match is Jeff Cobb makes his WWE debut, aligning himself with Solo Sikoa and allowing Jacob Fatu to pick up that win over LA Knight. Now, to Jacob Fatu's confusion, we'll say, I don't think he expected Jeff Cobb. I don't think he expected any help at all. So it does raise the questions. Does Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu communicate at all anymore? And does Solo Sikoa have alternative plans when it comes to the WWE? Is he aligning with Jeff Cobb? Is he aligned with Jacob Fatu? Where does Solo Sikoa lie here? Is this just a big ruse and we're all just going with it? Or is there actual tension brewing between Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu? I think we are definitely in that water of questions when it comes to your United States champion. I think it's very interesting. But yes, as Bobby is saying, welcome to the WWE, Jeff Cobb. It is fun to see him in WWE, and I'm very, very intrigued with how he is going to adapt into the WWE landscape. I think we can definitely fantasize all the matches we want here, but I think for the people who don't know Jeff Cobb, this can be a fantastic way to be introduced, because let me tell you, if we get Jeff Cobb versus Jacob Fatu at all, it is going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to need no explanation or introduction for Jeff Cobb. He is going to fit in real good, and I cannot wait. Now, I'm not going to go through order of this card. We're going to just jump from whatever. We're going to get the first match and the last match correct. So just let you know. Jeff Cobb versus Ilya Dragunov 2. Yeah, again, we can go through the fantasy matchups and we could just go, oh, give it to me, baby. Because let's face it, they're all going to be good. Just like the one Bobby Petito is saying right now. Ilya versus Jeff Cobb. Hopefully we do see Ilya Dragunov back on our screens sooner rather than later. I think it's time we get Ilya Dragunov back on our screens. Next, I want to talk about what I believe was one of my matches of the night, and that was Dominic Mysterio versus Penta for the Intercontinental Championship. Why? Because I just love myself some Dirty Dom Mysterio. Now, if you saw me last night, I may have been wearing my Penta t-shirt, but that is only because I just also very much enjoy Penta, and it just happened to be there to put on. But I absolutely love this match. I love that Penta had a standalone singles match on a PLE. He had a good opportunity to perform, but also a great match that he put on. Now, this is Dirty Dominic Mysterio's not his first title defense, but it's one of his biggest ones, I think, already. Dirty Dom Mysterio is now finding out the true life of a champion on Raw and as the Intercontinental Champion. So he is in for tough work, but I know he's up for it. Now, Dirty Dom did get the win, but it didn't come clean. He did get some help from Chad Gable. And yeah, there was a non-Judgment Day assist. However, speaking of the Judgment Day, afterwards, did anybody notice that glaring look Finn Balor gave Dirty Dom Mysterio? You just know, based off that look, there is something coming, and it is going to come quick. It is right there. We are right at the edge of what could be Judgment Day turmoil, and I cannot wait. Is Finn Balor going to become the good guy, or is Dirty Dom going to become the good guy? Because if you ask me, I think the story leads for Dirty Dom to be the one that the fans cheer. But I am still very much intrigued because let's face it, the Judgment Day might be one of the most underrated factions of all time. But let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the Intercontinental title match between Penta and Dirty Dom Mysterio, and where you hope to see Dirty Dom and Finn Balor moving forward. Next up, we had a women's Intercontinental title match, and that was the champion Lyra Valkyria taking on her mentor, the man, Becky Lynch. And I thought this match was right up there with the other Intercontinental title match. I do believe that the Intercontinental Championship, whether it's on the men's or women's title, were the talk of the pay-per-view in terms of in-ring competition. As Bobby coming in saying, I'm interested to see Dom Mysterio versus Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship at Money in the Bank. Potentially at Money in the Bank. But yeah, I mean, what can you say about Becky Lynch? She's done it all. Royal Rumble winner. She is a WrestleMania main eventer, the first ever. She's won the match, too, by the way. She's held every major championship that you can hold. She has gone on and had some of the most prolific feuds in terms of the women's division. She just has great match after great match after great match. She's in Happy Gilmore 2 that is coming out this year. She's all over our screen. She is what you encapsulate with the term megastar. But then when you look at Lyra Valkyria, an up-and-coming sensation. You see her in the ring, you are mesmerized. One of the better technical wrestlers on the women's roster. The first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. And someone following in the footsteps of the path that Becky Lynch did create for women Irish wrestlers. But needless to say, this isn't about Lyra being the next Becky, but, stapling her identity. And I think this match was absolutely fantastic. In fact, I don't even want this to be the only match. Whether you can talk about the technical aspect of this match or you want to talk about the physicality of this match, I think the one thing you talk about is just how good this match was. And you didn't need any fancy interference. You didn't need all that hoopla. What you needed was a good in-ring performance, and that's what you had. And Lyra Valkyria showcased that as she got the edge up on Becky Lynch and took the match in a clean form. 1, 2, 3. Now, a lot of people expected Bayley, myself included. I thought Bayley would play a part in this match, especially knowing that Becky Lynch did admit to taking out Bayley. But I don't think it was needed. I think what this match needed was just purity. And I think that's what we got over the Intercontinental Championship. And because of that, not only do I think the Intercontinental Championship looked better by no interference from Bayley, but I thought Lyra Valkyria as a champion looked better. She showed that she is capable of beating Becky Lynch on her own. And I think that already has uplifted her into a new perspective on where you rank her in that women's division. Bobby Sandy's Becky Lynch was a great opponent for Lyra, and I have to agree. I think Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria do have a chemistry that very, like a lot of wrestlers do have, but you know what they have is special, and I really hope we don't get it for nothing. I hope the next time we see Lyra and Becky Lynch, there's a reason why, and it makes sense. I just don't want it for the sake of it being right there. I want it because the story brings it, and I think the story that we saw going into this match might have been a tad rushed, with Becky coming back from WrestleMania, being the surprise partner for Lyra, winning the titles, only to lose them the next night on Raw, and then turn on Lyra and tell her that it's basically all because of her that they were tag champions, and then she was the reason why they lost. What I saw was a good coming out party for Lyra Valkyria in a lot of ways. She showed she can compete on the microphone. She shows she can compete in the ring. And now that she shows she's just as complete as Becky Lynch, all she needs now are the accolades and the accomplishments, and she is on her way of doing so. Big fan of this match, and even a bigger fan of how it played out. I think Lyra Valkyria as your Intercontinental Champion is a good choice. Bobby coming in saying Lyra Valkyria is a fighting champion as the Intercontinental Champion, and that's exactly what she is. That's exactly what she needs to be. And I'm very, very invested in Lyra Valkyria as your Intercontinental Champion. Next up, we had Gunther taking on Pat McAfee. And I think this match surprised a lot of people by just how well Pat McAfee can be beat up. He took a licking. Now, he also showcased what he is capable of as well. And I very much enjoyed that. Michael Cole said right before Backlash during that pre-show panel that he was not going to call this match down the middle. He could not. He said after 28 years of commentating and giving his blood, sweat, and tears to this company, he believes he deserves to have an opinion, and he doesn't deserve to be bullied over it like Gunther did after WrestleMania. He also feels bad that Pat McAfee is in this position because he does feel guilty and responsible for this match. But nonetheless, he is proud of Pat McAfee for standing up for him and taking the fight to Gunther. So this match does have some legs to stand on. It just didn't happen for no reason. We know that Gunther choked out Pat McAfee after WrestleMania, the Raw after Mania, got suspended, only to get back from suspension and have a face-to-face with Pat McAfee for Pat McAfee completely gave out the promo of a lifetime. There is nothing we can sit here and say about what happened in the match that was special. But what we do know is what we saw in this match was just everything we wanted. Gunther pummeling, chopping Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee was standing, coming back, hitting his stuff. The one thing I will note is when Pat McAfee was pitting Gunther, Michael Cole did come in and hold the legs and helped Pat McAfee defeating Gunther. Now, this is kind of where it snapped Gunther a little bit. He wasn't too happy, and he ended up choking out Pat McAfee in front of Michael Cole to end this match. I thought the story was fantastic. I thought it showed exactly what you needed to. It got Gunther to kind of have that flip the switch moment that made him go from I'm just not a man who's mad that he lost his title, but now I'm a man on a mission. I am pissed off. I know that I am that monster that you do not want to be in the ring with. And like matches in the past, we didn't see hesitation from Gunther. We saw that killing instinct, and I think that was very, very, very important in this match. And as expected, Gunther gets the win. I don't think anybody had Pat McAfee even close to winning this match. But nonetheless, the question now remains, what is next for Gunther? Where does he go? I do believe Pat McAfee will go back to the announce table, or this could be the write-off, so he can join the start of that college football season that he has typically done in years past. But this brings us to the main event, John Cena versus Randy Orton, a feud that has lasted the test of time. Somehow it feels like we're always seeing Randy Orton versus John Cena for the WWE Championship in some way. But in this forum, we have Randy Orton trying to chase GOAT status, to be quite honest. We don't know if this is his last run. We just know that there's a lot less years in front of him than there are behind him. And that's not saying he's done anytime soon, but we do know that his end will eventually come. This could be the end of the prime years of Randy Orton. We do know that the time is coming up for John Cena, as he is in his retirement tour. It ends December 31st of this year. He wants to ruin pro wrestling. He wants to leave the WWE as the last real world champion, as he's taken on Randy Orton in a match that now shows completely different emotions, different investment levels. By the way, Backlash is in the hometown city of Randy Orton in St. Louis, Missouri. And what we saw was a fantastic match, another clinic that only John Cena and Randy Orton can do. But what needs to be talked about is obviously how it ended. And that is Randy Orton hits the RKO out of nowhere, like he is known to do. But he does it without a ref. A new ref comes down. 1, 2, kick out? Did he actually get the 3? How close was that kick out? The referee said there was a kick out. Referee's stance is final. But as Randy Orton is talking to the official, John Cena is grabbing his championship, getting ready to smack Randy Orton's skull over. Randy gets out of the way, and the official takes that championship square in the face. We see another RKO. We see another pin, but there's no one to make the count. Nick Aldis and other staff come down to the ring only to check on the official, who has just been belted with this championship. Absolutely crazy. If you're Randy Orton, you're wondering what the heck is going on. Why is everybody focused on this one official and not the match? So what does Randy Orton do? Snaps. Leave the R-Truth out there. R-Truth even gets in the path of Randy Orton. We all know what R-Truth has been doing lately. He's been behind his childhood idol, John Cena. And we'll get to R-Truth and John Cena in short time. But just when it's all said and done, we thought we're finally getting back to everything. Low blow from John Cena to Randy Orton. And John Cena gets that 1, 2, 3, and he walks out of St. Louis still your undisputed WWE champion. Now, John Cena was taking part of the post-conference for Backlash to where R-Truth comes in. And this time R-Truth goes full R-Truth. Says some things that make you go, okay. I think he actually got John Cena to break character just for a split second. But then he says something that John Cena just, okay. This is your warning. You say in the next word, and I'm not responsible for the consequences. That doesn't matter. R-Truth still says something. And we see an attitude adjustment from John Cena to R-Truth into that table at the press conference as John Cena walks off. Are we getting John Cena versus R-Truth in 2 weeks? The rumor mill is saying, yes, that is the peg match. John Cena versus R-Truth. Who would have thought in 2025? John Cena has a retirement tour, and we are going to get the 17-time WWE champion going up against R-Truth. What kind of world are we living in? But yeah, that was your WWE Backlash. Let me know what you thought. Again, I'm going to go with a women's intercontinental match just edging out the men's intercontinental championship match for my match of the night. I want to know what you guys have. I will put in the Spotify question of the week, what is your favorite match? You will be able to choose between the 5. But now that we have discussed Backlash, we now can discuss what happens next. But before we do that, from our good friends over at Turnbuckle Studios, I want to once again talk about the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. Go to turnbucklestudios.org now to get more information. But if you want to know more about the programming that comes with the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, well, we got you covered right now, right here, with a beautiful video. Just letting you know what comes in the week of Turnbuckle Studios. So check this out, and I'll see you in about a minute's time.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m., followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursday we got total non-stop action with Brace for Impact at 8 p.m. Friday we game again with Unleashed, the Jessica Wilde story at 7 p.m. Following the game, join us for the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. followed by the Boar's Nest at 8 p.m. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day.
And that is what we have coming up on the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program through Turnbuckle Studios. Also, programming note, you will see the occasional time change the occasional PLD patrol. Those are things that you have to stay tuned for, whether it's through the video content or on the social medias. So make sure that you're staying in tune by following everything on the social medias platforms, just so you can be a little bit more informed about any alterations that do occur. Now, we like to talk about what kind of happens in the week. And what we saw in this week, obviously, we saw the debut of Jeff Cobb last night, and we brushed off what we thought about Jeff Cobb. And from the sounds of it, there will be no name change, by the way, to Jeff Cobb. He will be known as Jeff Cobb. So just letting you guys know on that one. But we also saw on SmackDown the return of the 5 Feet of Fury, Alexa Bliss, as she came down to be the mystery partner for Women's United States Champion Zelina Vega as they took on the Secret Hervis minus Alba Fire, replaced by Chelsea Green. So, I don't know what you want. Chelsea and Piper, more or less. Which led to speculation, will we see Alexa Bliss do anything with the Wyatt Six? And I think the answer will be in due time. Obviously, right now, from my understanding, they're just waiting on the health of everyone in the faction to be back so they can start this process. From what I understand, there was an intention of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross challenging Raquel and Liv for the tag titles at WrestleMania. However, the time needed to get that story to make sense wasn't there, so they decided to take the pause and wait until they actually had that time to tell the story in proper. Because the one thing you have noticed about anything Wyatt Six, or even before that, the Bray Wyatt, you got very little rushed story in there. Now, there were examples of some, but it wasn't exactly something that always happened. They were very, very specific on what they were doing, and I think we can agree that on this iteration of the Wyatt Six, they haven't been rushing it, and I think that's a good thing for the group. So in due time, I think we will see what we want to see, but I think just a little bit of patience needs to be there. But nonetheless, we got Alexa Bliss back, competing in a tag team match with Zelina Vega and picking up the win over Chelsea and Piper. What more can you say? Just another experienced woman coming back into the division, adding a completely different flavor, and it was a lot of fun to see, what she's able to do. And yeah, Alexa Bliss isn't coming back as, her goddess or type character. She's coming in more of a hybrid between what she was in that, mixed with, that the Lily Holding and, that iteration of Alexa Bliss. So she has kind of that personality of being a little bit more open, but she does have the presentation of being dark and a little bit mysterious. So it's very much that hybrid character. But I do think it's there for a reason. I think if they want to go into that Wyatt Six, there we go. It's right there. If they don't, it's also right there. So whether or not they have the time to just do some stuff with Alexa Bliss now, that's okay. I think this is done intentionally, and it's going to be just a wait and see approach until we get to that Wyatt Six stuff. Now, we will be getting coming up Monday Night Raw tomorrow with matches already slated, whether it's Rhea and Io taking on Julia and Roxanne Perez. I believe it's Julia and Roxanne Perez. Yeah, it is. So we're going to get 2/3 of your WrestleMania Women's Championship triple threat forming a team to face off against the new blood of Roxanne and Julia. And I think that's going to be an amazing match. But I do hope what we see is either Roxanne pin Io or we see Julia pin Rhea. I think one of those needs to happen just to help strengthen the team of Roxanne and Julia and make them more solidified on the roster. And I do think that is something that the perception of this group needs. Especially right now where you don't necessarily have a functional team mentality between Io and Rhea. I think that's very crucial in this match, and I think that should be something we see moving forward. We also have the Creed brothers taking on the War Raiders, which is something I was hoping to be the WrestleMania match. Not going to lie, I kind of wanted to see the Creed brothers become your tag team championship or champions at WrestleMania. I would have preferred that direction, but nonetheless, they are still in that mix for those tag team championships. And with the win over the War Raiders, I think definitely puts them in that conversation. I will take the War Raiders, nonetheless, to win this match because I do think we're going to get one last match between the War Raiders and the New Day, and I do think this could be slated for Saturday night's main event in just a couple of weeks. And then next up, we have a match that, well, let's face it, it's been very rare in WWE, but one that we always want to see, and that's AJ Styles taking on Finn Balor. And as we talked about during the Backlash review, Finn Balor and Dirty Dom have a relationship that is just intensely rocky at this point, and it's just a matter of time before we see that explode, and I do think we're going to see that sooner rather than later. I just don't know if tomorrow's that time, but what I would like to see is Dirty Dom come down and try to help Finn, but make a mistake, and he ends up helping AJ Styles get that 1, 2, 3. We see AJ Styles and Dirty Dom in some way. That sets up an Intercontinental title match between the two, and that also just allows more tension to fly between Dom and Finn Balor. That is something that I would actually like to see. We also have the fallout from CM Punk coming back last week, just to kind of throw a wrench in the plans of Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman, and Seth freaking Rollins. Do we see Roman Reigns follow suit? We know Sami Zayn's right there in that mix as well. Jey Uso's there, but Jey Uso has his hands full with Logan Paul. And yes, I do believe that match for that World Heavyweight Championship is slated for Saturday night's main event in a few weeks as well. So I think you can look for that to be official on Monday, tomorrow, for that Raw Patrol. That is the next spot. You can see me. Hopefully, I will. I'm hoping I can return to the Raw Patrol tomorrow. That is the goal. The reason why you have not seen me on that is because of real life. Just things have come up. But we are at that point where we're watching completely new kind of come to our screens, right? We're in that, what happens this year, right? WrestleMania is in the past. We've got that first PLE out of the way now with Backlash. Where do we go now? And yes, there is that draft that we need more information on. I do hope we get a little bit more information about that, because I do think it's time now we kind of get that shift on the roster. Let's find out where everybody sits, what's going to be new, what's going to be right there. And I think it's great just to get that new blood added. We can get that, kind of that stage set for, the upcoming year. Because obviously, when I say year, it's WrestleMania to WrestleMania. That's what I do think that's kind of the year of WWE. I know we can talk about January to December, but we all know that that's just the calendar year. The wrestling year is WrestleMania to WrestleMania, especially if it's WWE. Now, we've talked a lot about the draft in episodes prior. We've talked a lot about who we think should move. But the question I'm going to ask and I'm going to put out is, do we see champions moving this year? Now, for the last few years, we've been seeing the Intercontinental Championship be synonymous to Raw, the United States Championship be synonymous to SmackDown. And because of that, female versions of those championships have been introduced and they've been synonymous with the same brands. Do we see the Intercontinental Championships in any way go to SmackDown and the United States Championships go to Raw? Do we see Jey Uso and John Cena potentially flipping spots? Do we see the New Day and the Street Profits flipping spots? Or do we see Io Sky and Tiffany Stratton flipping spots? I think that's going to be very curious because obviously in years prior, we've seen the championships be the reason to why you stay on the show. Now, I don't mind that. It's a nice little caveat. You've won a championship. You get to call your shot. You get to stay there. You've earned it. Everybody else, though, they're open. But I'd be very intrigued to see if anything new does come up because I think this is a perfect time to have that shakeup. And I think one of the divisions that I'm really hoping that gets shook up is actually there's two. There is the tag team division. I do hope that, especially on Raw, we get a little bit of new blood, fresh faces, a little bit of more of an uplifting pace. I mean, that goes straight on to just, putting more time invested to it as well. But at the same time, I'm looking at the mid-card women's titles also because I do want to see more time devoted to both the United States and the Intercontinental Women's Championships. However, I will say that right now I feel like I'm seeing more Lyra than I am Io, and I don't know if that's a good thing. So when it comes down to both of the women's championships, I think you need to put a little bit more emphasis on those as well. I'll say the same thing over on SmackDown. Tiffany Stratton and Zelina Vega, I feel we're getting equal time, but I don't know if it's enough. Also, we know just in the next couple weeks, I believe it's June 6th, SmackDown is slated to move back to 2 hours. I'm going to ask, is this a mistake and should they stay to 3? Should they adapt more like Raw and become 2.5? And now on the SmackDown security detail, we talked about that and we wondered how they could do that. Because obviously on SmackDown in the United States, they're still on a television deal. For everyone else, you get everything on WWE through Netflix. And I have a clear-cut solution. You do the first 2 hours on your scheduled program in the United States. If you want to watch the remaining time you got to switch over to Netflix. Now, would that suck for American audiences? Absolutely. But guess what? It is something that you have the potential to do. If you're already watching Raw or the PLEs or anything else on Netflix, why would the last half hour be any different? Now, it would be awkward. I get it. But I do think like right after it finishes, you can just go back and watch the whole episode if you wanted to. Or WWE, you can just negotiate a 2.5 hour time slot over 3. But I do think 2.5 hours works a lot better than 2 hours. Simply because you have a lot of people on a roster. I do think on SmackDown right now, you are doing a lot of good work. You're exercising those 3 hours very well. So I have a hard time wondering how you're going to just cut a third of your show just like that without having a little bit of hiccups and a little bit of people saying, hey, what about this person? What about that person? I do think you're going to get into that problem. Unless you're going to go every week, we're going to focus on this part of the roster, and then the next week we're going to focus on the other part. I can understand that. Maybe you choose, your male men's champion and your mid-card women's champion and tag team. And then the next one you're doing your women's champion, your men's mid-card, and then your secondary feuds. I don't know. And then when you're leading up to a PLE, whatever matches are on that card, or that's when you put out the hits. I'm not sure. This is obviously something that's above my pay grade, but at the same time, I'm going to be very intrigued to see kind of how the format does shift when SmackDown does move away from the 3-hour mark. And I think it's going to be a lot of intriguing things. I know I like to use the word intriguing, but at the same time, when I'm unsure on something, I don't really get happy or unhappy. I'm intrigued to see how it plays out. I'm curious. I'd have to see how. I'm a very curious person by nature, so I'm not exactly looking into it with a negative or positive approach, but I'm looking at it to see how I can react to it. Sometimes I just want to see it before I gauge an opinion. So that's why I use the word intrigued a lot here on the Chris Parrish podcast. But I am intrigued by everyone here about why we watch, but we don't subscribe. We don't follow. That's right. If you listen to multiple other programs, you know that they always say that they find out that the majority of the people don't subscribe or follow the show. Now, I know you might think you do, and you find out, oh, I don't. That's okay. I'm not upset if you don't. All I am is just going to remind you, if you can, you swing by all the Chris Parrish platforms, whether it's the 5 platforms of Doom or the Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram. Make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and then you can help the show. If you're over on Spotify, rate the Chris Parrish podcast 5 stars, and make sure you hit follow as well. Make sure that if you're on YouTube watching the shows, you hit that notification bell button so you can be alerted to every time Chris Parrish podcast goes live. Also, programming note that I will be doing an NXT Battleground watch party in 2 weeks' time. So on May 25th, I will be doing an NXT watch party. Now, that is going to be on most of the platforms of Doom. The only change is I am going to put that for Instagram subscribers only. So that is the only change. So if you want to watch this through Instagram, you can do that. I will also guarantee I'm going to do more stuff exclusively on Instagram as we move forward. Now, what that is, you're going to have to stay tuned and find out. Leading towards July will be the start of me covering a lot more NXT coverage. That's right, following Turnbuckle Talk on Tuesdays, starting July, most likely. That is still a working date. There's a working title, working everything. Everything's still in process, but an NXT devoted show will be coming up on Tuesdays, following Turnbuckle Talk as NXT does finish. So look forward for that. We'll be doing some stuff. If you have any ideas on names, please shoot them my way. I'm curious to see what people come up with. I'm intrigued. What do you want from me? If you want to help support myself, please go to my link tree. It's located right at the bottom. Linktree/Chris Parrish. That's right. You can go there. You can check out all my socials. I'm even on Blue Skies, and I'm also on a lot of other platforms as well. So please support me. If you want to follow me on Blue Skies, I'll follow you right back. That's exactly how I go. You can check me out on TikTok as well. I don't really post much on there because, well, let's face it, if you know me, you know I'm just not that TikTok kind of guy, but I'm on it. I will post stuff occasionally, and I appreciate anybody who shows the love over to me as well. Again, you can go and check out turnbucklestudios.org right now to help support Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. If you want to meet the team and check out more about what they do and potentially get involved or even work with them, you want to check out turnbucklestudios.org. You can reach out. There is an email right there on that website that allows you to have direct conversations to someone involved in the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program to help you get more involved if you'd like to. If you also want to check out my local sponsor, beercadewhyte, you can do so by visiting them locally at 10544 82nd Ave. But if you want to show them that love and support, go to facebook.com/beercadewhyte. And you can do that on Facebook. You can follow them at beercadewhyte on Instagram and beercadewhyte on the X. This has been episode 76, Backlash, but I want to tell you I will be back next week on May 18th for episode 77, Removing Doubt. That's right. You want to say why it's removing doubt? Well, you're going to have to check in next week to see, because I will tell you. Now, I'd be a fool to not take the time out to thank my mother. I wish my mother a happy Mother's Day. Obviously, I tell everyone out here that I would not be here without you and your support, but let's be real. I would not be here without my mom helping me out every step of the way through my life. I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. I will see you soon. You will get your flowers. I promise you. But until next week, this has been episode 76, Backlashed. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I wish you well. Remind you to say go Saints. But more importantly, be yourself. Be happy. Be healthy. Because at the end of the day, you matter. See you next week.
Rip through the clouds faster.